think about money, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Is it, I got to control my finances by monitoring my spending? Is it, I have to be able to budget out what it is I need to do for, this month in order to pay bills and take care of all your regular stuff? How do you approach your finances? Hey, welcome back to the Brewed for Life podcast. As you can see, I kind of want to get into something this week that I think is kind of an unspoken thing. And I want to get into it because over this past weekend, we had an issue at the house as it pertained to finances. Now, Audrey and I do a great job at monitoring our bills, make sure that we set whatever our bills are going to be aside. We set a portion aside every single week to make sure that when those automatic payments get pulled, all of the money is already set aside. Now, what made me think about this is my oldest son. He works a full-time job, and his boss is great. He's learning a good skill. I think the only caveat that he struggles with is because he works in construction, he doesn't have a regular pay period. So I've asked him multiple times, say, hey, talk to your boss and find out if you can get paid on a regular schedule, either weekly or bi-weekly or something, because at least at that point, he can look at his finances and understand how he has to attack it. But like every other 20-year-old kid in the world, he doesn't pay attention to his finances. And normally I wouldn't care, when I was 20 years old, my parents didn't monitor my finances. I had a car payment. I had to make my car insurance, all of that stuff. I had a cell phone bill. When it comes to my oldest son, he got into a thing where we had given him a car, and that car ran its life, and some mechanical issues and stuff started to happen. So he got to a point where he needed to buy a new car. Now, because he was working and because he was bringing in a substantial amount of money every single time he got paid, I went ahead and found him a car that was everything that he needed, all-wheel drive, whatever, I bought him a Subaru, and he does a lot of commuting, so it also needed to be good on gas. And so I went and I took this loan out because he's working, in the construction field, which some of those jobs for the private contractors, a lot of those jobs are off the books, so they don't count as payroll against the business, and you get paid in cash every week. And I know some people have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with it. It is what it is. For a long time, waitresses and bartenders and that kind of stuff, a substantial amount of their money was off the books too. So I don't have an issue with it. As long as you are contributing to society, a lot of these people are, and as long as you're not a leech on the society, so working off the books and also getting reimbursement from state or federal funding, I don't have an issue with it. But what happened this weekend is my oldest was getting ready to head out and go to a concert. And he loves going to concerts and seeing music live. And I'm glad he does. It's never been my thing, but I'm glad he does. And he goes and he has a good time with his friends. He's always responsible. So I don't have an issue with it at all. But in the beginning, he was great with his finances. He wasn't spending much money. Basically what he was spending his money on was lunch every once in a while, parking when he had to have parking for whatever job they were at, and his gas. The only other thing he paid for was his car payment and his car insurance, which come out once a month. So this Sunday, or this Saturday, I should say, he's been, kind of in and out. He's got a girlfriend now, so he's kind of been all over the place. And with that said, he sat down on the couch getting ready to leave for this concert, and he just comes home with some brand new Timberlands. Now, anybody who knows anything about boots, Timberlands are not cheap. They last a long time, yes, but they are not cheap. So I looked at his bank account, and the kid's got $50 in his bank account. And normally I wouldn't care, but in 5 days, he has his car payment and his car insurance. So I asked him, I go, hey, how much money you got in your account? And his face kind of went blank. And now he knows from previous times that when I ask this question, it usually means his bank account is way lower than I feel like it needs to be based on what his actual bills are. So he looks at it, and I looked at him and I was like, dude, honestly, what the fuck? You only have 2 bills. You know you need to have X amount of dollars in the bank to pay your bills. Why are you not monitoring your bank account? Now, for perspective's sake, what also pissed me off is that it had been 11 days. 11 days ago, the kid had $1,200 in his bank account, and now here 11 days later, the kid's got $50 in his bank account. Where the fuck do you spend $1,000 in 11 days when you haven't paid a single fucking bill? It's just reckless spending. That's all it is. He's not thinking about what's in his account. He's not thinking about anything. He's just buying what he wants to buy and whatever else. Now, again, normally I wouldn't care because if he doesn't make his car payment, the car gets repoed and that's on him. But the loan's in my name. So now that becomes another problem, right? So we have this big long discussion with him. And, I hated to ruin his day, but, I hated to ruin his night going out to this concert, but I think he needed to be aware that, dude, you have $50 in your bank account. Now, he had the intention on going and getting, merchandise while he was there, but, merchandise also isn't cheap. So if he wanted a sweatshirt and a t-shirt, that's going to be more than $50. His card's going to get declined. He's going to be embarrassed in front of his friend. And now it creates this whole other nonsense, right? So he goes to his concert. He comes home. And I talked to him on Sunday morning. And I was like, dude, you really need to figure this out. I go, if you can talk to your boss and get some portion of your income on the books, doesn't even have to be all of it, some portion of your income on the books. Now he can show that he has a job and he has responsibility, and now we can transfer the loan to him. All of those things now can be his responsibility. And I was so mad on Saturday when I was talking to him about this. I was like, if you don't get this shit figured out by the end of the year, I will sell your fucking car. Then you won't have a job. I won't have to worry about the stress of whether or not you're monitoring your finances to pay your bills. And he won't be able to get anywhere. And he kind of looks at me blankly, and I love him to death, but he always has this blank stare when he knew he fucked up, when he knew he was in the wrong, but he's not sure what to say to try to explain it or get out of it or whatever. So I called his mom, and I told his mom and his stepdad all about it, and they were both like, where the fuck did all of his money go? And of course, there's no explanation or rhyme or reason as to why the money all disappeared, and so they were upset. And, he gets up Sunday morning, and I was like, dude, how was the concert? And he was like, good. I go, how are you going to figure this stuff out? Now, he did the right thing. He reached out to his boss and asked his boss to get paid and explained why. And he was very transparent that, I'm sorry I even have to do this, but I was not responsible with my money. I got this payment coming out, blah, 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 blah. And his boss being a friend, and he's outside of him being a friend of mine, he's a good guy. He's the kind of person that would help anybody if he could. And most of the time, he can. And he doesn't want anything in return. He's just a good guy. He's the one who came to me to offer Ian this job. His boss paid him immediately. All the money's in the account. Again, I can't stress it enough. When it comes to finances, it is so important. And I wish I had paid attention to it when I was his age. And I've had that conversation with him, that finances are important. And if I had just paid attention to my finances and not had done the reckless spending or whatever else that I did at his age, I would have been in a much better position to buy a house, buy a car, buy all these things, and could be much further along in my savings, my retirement, and all of those things at my current age. And I'm trying to instill that in him. Now, again, he's only 20 years old. But with that said, I wish my parents had taken the time to sit down and talk to me about these things when I was his age. You don't realize the impact of where your finances are, probably most people, until they're close to 30. That's when they really start to worry about their investments and their 401ks and their retirement and where all that stuff is going. But I've been working full time since I graduated high school. And I didn't do all of those things. I didn't even pay attention to my 401k when I had a 401k when I was 20. I just let it do its thing. It barely made any money, and I probably lost easily $200,000 just by not paying attention to my 401k and making sure that it was invested in areas that could make me money. Instead of a stable long-term growth that maybe by that time I retired, maybe there'd be $500,000 in there. So I'm trying to instill that in him. I want him to have a much better position growing up to take care of all of these things. So when it comes time to buy a house, you have collateral. When you want to retire or whatever, you have that. If you want to start your own business, you have something to take a loan out against. And I want him to be able to go someplace and buy a car or get a credit card or do all those things, but he can't do it if he's not showing his income. So that's going to be the next step. I told him when I bought him the car, he needs to get on the books so that, he could at least go on the loan and start building credit. He could be the primary on the loan and I could be the secondary if they needed some kind of comfort because he doesn't have a long-term work history. But he needs to get to that point. And he needs to get to the point where he can maturely ask these questions and have these conversations with his boss. Now, I would understand if his boss was a standoff kind of a person. I would understand if he had just started this job, but he's been working with this guy for almost 2 years now. And I at this point, you should be comfortable enough to say, hey, I just want to talk to you about these things. And do you think we can do these things? And if for whatever reason he can't go on the books, or, my buddy doesn't want to put him on the books for his own business reasons or whatever, that's fine. Then Ian needs to find something that is on the books. So maybe he needs to find a part-time gig. And if he could find a part-time gig, then he could show some kind of a money income that can pay the bills. Outside of that, Audrey brought up a good point when we were talking about it the other day, and that is that Ian pays for his own gym membership to Planet Fitness. Now, anybody who knows anything about kids his age, a lot of them don't like to get up early. Ian doesn't have a problem getting up early. He's not really a drinker. He's not a partier. He's not any of those things. So she said maybe he can get a job working at Planet Fitness part-time, and then he won't even have to pay for his membership, but he'll also, be on the books and show income. Now, I think that's a fantastic idea. You get up early, maybe you go open the gym, you work until noon, and then you have the rest of Saturday and Sunday to be able to do whatever. Or maybe you could pick up a shift if you know you're not going to be working certain days because, your boss is either away or has other obligations and you're not going to work that day. I think it's a fantastic idea. I don't know how receptive he's going to be to it because, again, he does have this new girlfriend and she wants to spend a lot of time with him. So I'm not sure what the direction to go into. And obviously, this being my first time that I'm dealing with not just Ian having a girlfriend now, but having to navigate this kind of stuff as he gets older, it's kind of uncharted territory for me as a parent. And it's hard to talk to my mom about it because my mom my parents didn't necessarily work with us on how to deal with our finances. It was just kind of oh, you'll figure it out. You should know how to not waste your money. But I wish I was better at it, like I said, at Ian's age. And I don't know what's going to happen with all of this. I hope he has learned, and the threat of potentially losing his car will be enough for him to go, I need to get my shit together, and I need to really pay attention to what I need to be doing. And I'd rather him enjoy his life and do all those things that he wants to do, but he needs to be able to make sure that there's money there. And honestly, I'd want him to put some money aside. I want him to have some kind of a savings too, because again, that was something I didn't do when I was his age. And I wish I had, because it would have put me in a much better position as I got to 30 and 35 and 40 and now this coming year I'll be 48 and it would put me in a much better position financially where I could have invested and maybe made some other money with some investments, or I would have been, like I said, would have been smarter with my 401k or just any of those things. And I want him to be better than that. I want him to be in a much better position at the age of 30 than I was, than his mom was, than his stepdad was, and then where Audrey is. And I've said it before, there's a huge gap between Audrey and I, and she's gonna be 28 in February, and I'll be 48 in June. And she's in a good position. She has a good job, but she's understanding and learning about how to do all of those things when it comes to monitoring her finances. She's always been good at it. She's always made her car payments. She's always paid her bills. She's always done really, really well when it comes to finances. Does she wish she made a little bit more money so there could be more savings? Yes, but she does have a retirement at work, so it kind of offsets a lot of that stuff. I just wish Ian could get to the point where he could understand all of that and manage it wisely. But we'll see. I know that he probably doesn't fully understand it, but he's got a lot of people around him that want to help him understand it. So there's definitely room for a lot of growth and a room for an opportunity for him to get off that path of just blindly spending and then get on the path of, all right, I got my money to pay my bills, I got this, I got that, and I'm good. He'll get there. I hope. I don't know if I necessarily handled the whole thing really well, because I was pissed. I was fuming. Because all of that liability, if he doesn't have the money in the bank to pay his portion of the car insurance and his, his car payment, that's on me. And that is arguably a substantial amount of money that is unaccounted for while we're budgeting. So now that money's got to come from someplace. And it's not that we couldn't do it, it's that we shouldn't have to do it. It's different if he lost his job and he was in transition trying to find a job, but the negligent spending is what got him in that position. So he's going to have to try to figure it out. And I think he will. Like I said, I think he will. I hope he will. I think it rattled his cage enough where he'll understand. But he'll figure it out one step at a time. With that said, what do you guys do as parents? What for the older listeners that have kids also my age, what did you do to help your kids understand how to manage their finances? Did you sit down and have a conversation with them? Did you go through it with them as they started working and stress the importance of monitoring your spending and savings and all of that kind of stuff? How did you guys handle that going forward? Let me know. Hit me up on the Instagram page, Brewed for Life Podcast or Baines Brewing. You could also hit me up on the YouTube channel. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear it. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you guys next week.